Okay, so we're going to talk about personal growth today. This is part of the series from John Maxwell, and it's called The Expansion of Leadership. And I think it's probably one of the most important things when it comes to leadership and growth is your own personal growth. And so what it starts off with is your capacity to grow will determine your capacity to lead, because you can't really give what you don't have. You guys have heard that before. If you're not growing in your leadership, it's difficult for you to become a leader. Obviously, one of my mentors used to say, if you have a little, give a little. If you have a lot, give a lot, right? So that's going to grow over time. But part of it is not just trying to grow other people. That's one of the things I've learned myself is I really have to be growing and expanding in order to take people to a certain place. I have to get myself out of my comfort zone and change and grow if I'm going to continue to be influential and continue to be impactful. And it's one of the most difficult things that you'll do is self leadership. I mean, you could use that synonymously, self leadership, self growth, because you're having to really dig into what's going on in your own life. So what do you guys think about that idea of your capacity to grow will determine your capacity to lead? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think like when you think about any leader, any great leader, they are people who've been like forged, right? They've been forged in some kind of fire, and they've gone through tribulations, and they've overcome things. And so, I think a leader is not necessarily somebody that was just birthed that way. I think that you have to go through experience to get there, and you have to have done that well, right? Or at least learned from it. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense that um, that your capacity will grow as you or sorry, that I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, Dave.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I think I just like it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Good. What about you, Jenna? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even thinking like personal, or like everyday matters, but I mean, I think everything in life that one goes through, trials, good or bad, grows somebody professionally, personally, in every aspect of your life. And what you learn personally can also go into your profession, and how you lead. So yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with
100%.
all that.
100%. Okay, so there's 5 reasons why growth matters that we're going to talk about. And the first one is growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will get better. Okay, so growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will get better. So if you think about growing, I want you to think about stretching or straining, because growing takes a upwards trajectory. You have to move uphill or swim upstream. And then it also takes a decision. You have to make a choice to grow, because you could still be old and not have grown. You could still be older in life and still be really immature in the way that you function, because you chose not to grow and you thought it would just happen automatically. It would be tantamount to me walking into the gym every day and I walk around the weights, I look at the people on the treadmill, I might even dialogue with them, I might even sit on it, but I don't actually engage in the act of lifting the weights, sweating, getting my heart rate up. But I expect that I'm going to walk out of there and have results. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to have to get messy. I'm going to have to make a decision. That's a choice that I will have to make in order to grow. If you think about everything that we have today, Right now, as we speak, somebody felt the urge to develop and design Zoom. Right now, as we're doing this, all this stuff came out of somebody that made a decision to grow, that they thought this is a problem, we could solve it, and I'm going to choose to come up with a solution for this. Right now, Jenna, today you had somebody deliver a couch, right? And so somebody had to grow in order to go through the process of developing the couch. They had to go through the process of developing the company. They had to figure out how to get it over to you. You know, every day we turn on the lights. To us, that's just like no brainer. But somebody had to go through the process of actually growing in order to come up with light, electricity, all these things that we do. So our life is really a compound of all the decisions people made in the past, that we are standing on the shoulders of people that decided to grow. And then people will do the same for us as we go forward. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that? Growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will get better?
I mean, yeah. Um, I mean, to just take it like when I do the kickoff calls, you know what I mean? I mean, you do it once and then, but you do it over and over again, and you're going to get better and better at it.
Yes, 100%.
So,
But you had to make a choice, right? You had
yeah.
to make a decision to say, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways.
hmm
And then that plunged you into growth, you
hmm
know, in order for you to do that. So that's 100% true. Okay, so there's this statement. John Maxwell said, the passing of time guarantees that we get older, but again, doesn't guarantee that we will get better. So just remember that. I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen in my own life. 5 ways to intentionally not act old. So I love this. So there's number 1, ask questions. Okay. Number 2, keep the bar of excellence high. Number 3, be people-centric. And then number 4 is to be people conscious. And number 5 is to remain today focus. Okay. So number 1, ask questions. I have been involved in a lot of different institutions and organizations, and I have found that there is a very small few people that are engaged in asking questions in the relationships. They're not, I was part of a men's ministry for a long time, and I remember walking in every night, and I ended up leading the whole ministry. And one of the things I told the guys after months and months of being there is I said, I love you guys, but you're going to hear some things that might be a little painful. You're not good at asking questions. I said, when people come in and they're new, you love talking about yourself, but you don't ever ask questions. And that's why people don't come back, because they don't feel like they were engaged ultimately. So asking questions is a way to really engage people. What do you guys think about the concept of asking questions?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think another part of that too is that when you're asking questions, you're finding like you're getting answers, right? So it's not just about like engaging other people, but it's also about understanding people better and understanding needs better and being able to, you know, formulate better solutions because now you understand the need better. And then, like you said, like making people just feel seen is a huge part of that as well.
It's awesome. And there's something in our brain that takes over as soon as we ask a question, and it will start to search for the answer. And so we have to ask ourselves the right questions in order to get the right answer. And God designed our body that way. And it's pretty fascinating. Number 2 says, keep the bar of excellence high. So what do you think, Jenna, he means by that? Like keeping of intentionality of not acting. Why is keeping the bar of excellence high a big deal? Or what does it even mean, you think?
I mean, I think it just means, you know, keep trying to grow, keep trying to do your best, keep learning. Not that like, I mean, you want to do you want to be excellent in your job or profession or personal life, whatever that looks like for you personally. But I also think that doesn't mean like, you have to do it like this and then that's excellent. I think it really just means keep growing and learning and how to do things better.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's this standard, you've heard of the standard of excellence, right? You will grow to the extent of the bar that's given to you. And so if the hurdle's here, I'll try to get there. Think about all the Olympic athletes, right? They would break a record, right? And then all of a sudden somebody broke a new record, and all of a sudden that became the new benchmark. And it's so interesting how someone's like, nobody's ever going to break that record. And then all of a sudden somebody comes along and breaks the record, right? So someone kept saying, I think we could go higher. I think we can push to a higher of excellence. So what happens is that we tend to start moving to the extent of what we do. There's no such thing as, really a person who doesn't really grow to the extent of their vision. And what I mean by that is, there's no difference per se between me and Bill Gates. He just had a bigger vision, right? And so his vision is what he went to. And so think about people who set large visions. That's what they just chose to do. It wasn't like they were smarter. They just had a larger bar of excellence or a larger vision. Number 3 is be people-centric. So what do you think that means, Michelle? What do you think it means to be people-centric?
I think to put others like before yourself, the opposite would be me-centric. So I think often as you get older and the world kind of gets to you, and it's, you just get into this place of like, well, I've created my life and I've got my family and I've got my friends and everything's centered around me. And so I think that's easy as you get older, just because you have more time. And so being people-centric would really be about engaging with the community, finding needs, filling them, just thinking about others before yourself.
Yeah, that's a really hard one because we're just so naturally bent to think about us. I mean, I get up in the morning, this is what I need to do and I need to accomplish. And rarely do I get up and start thinking, okay, what about who do I need to hear and hear and hear and hear? And it's certainly an act of intentionality that we have to be intentional to think about others, not just ourselves. So now what do you think it means what's the difference between being people conscious and people centric? Any ideas on that, Jenna?
Gosh, I don't know. I was thinking about this and I'm like, I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe just being careful about how you approach people and how you speak to them. I
Yeah.
guess, and because you don't know how people are going to react, just depending on what it is. So I think you just have to be conscious that, not everybody thinks like you, not everybody acts like you, you just have to be intentional in the way that you approach people in the right way.
Yeah, so just being aware and conscious of what's going on. We have the humble, hungry, smart, and the smart we say is people smart, right? Being aware of people, picking up on cues, and just understanding, signs or body language or things that you kind of go, oh, okay, maybe they don't like that, and so you just start to be able to make adjustments based upon the different personalities you're dealing with at the end of the day. So so we need to, in order to be people conscious, we also need to be personally conscious. We need to be aware of what's going on in our own heart in order to be aware of what's going on in other people's heart. I talked about that yesterday at a leadership meeting I was teaching on, and I said, it's really important to have time for self-reflection and self-awareness, because you can't lead well if you're not aware of what's going on in your own heart, because you're just can't figure out what's going on with you. How are you going to figure out how to deal with other people? So it's just super important to just start learning and growing about who you are. Number 5 is remain today focus. So what is that all about? Remaining today focus.
I think it's like all about being present. in what's going on now and who's in front of you now, and not, thinking back towards the past or even always looking ahead to the future. On the flip side, it's like we talk about vision and how great that is. And of course it's wonderful, but at the same time, you've got to be in where you're at now in order, I think, to grow and to get to that place. And also just to like reap the benefits of like what the Lord's doing in that circumstance.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, just being aware, which is a discipline of what's going on now, because we have the propensity to go hang out in the past, right? That could be a bent where we, when we hang out too much in the past, there's probably a tendency of guilt or maybe depression or shame, because that's an area that we want to camp. Future oriented, and again, it's not bad to plan, it's not even bad to reflect on the past. I think those are all healthy exercises to prepare and plan. But then we have to say, okay, but how do I just stay present now so that I can be effective? Because for me, I'm always looking in the futures. I'm kind of a visionary. I'm like, future. And so again, that's not bad, but it can be, because I could be talking to you or, Jenna, and I could not be listening. I could be just thinking about the next thing that's going on, and I'm actually not here listening to what you're saying. My wife is such a gracious woman, and sometimes she'll say, "You're not listening. I know you're not there." Where are you? Because I know you're not paying attention to me. So that's really it's an act of a discipline to be these things. So it's good. Okay. He says personal growth increases hope. It teaches us that tomorrow can be better than today. And then the second one is growth means change. Okay, so growth means change. He says to learn, unlearn, relearn process. So think about this. Learn, what do I need to learn today that I didn't know yesterday? Unlearn, what do I need to let go of today that I held on to yesterday? And then relearn, what do I need to change today that I was doing yesterday? So think about those quadrants right there. Learning something, what do I need to do to learn today that I didn't know yesterday? Unlearn, what do I need to let go of that I held on to yesterday? And then relearn, what do I need to change today that I was doing yesterday? So what strikes you guys about that concept, that if I'm going to grow, I have to change? Because change is hard. I mean, it's tough. We all want to change. It's just when it comes to it, it's hard.
I think it's really interesting that all three of those things, they just take a whole lot of self-awareness. Like you really just have to know where you're at. What do I need to learn? Like, where's my area? Where's my gap that maybe, my blind spot that I need to really dig into and learn more and build up, and then unlearning things that weren't helpful to you. Like, okay, what are those things? Maybe I'm holding on to those things for some reason. Why am I holding on to that thing? And then relearning. And that's all about habits, right? So what do I need to change that I did yesterday that I don't want to do today or want to do better? So just very, very introspective.
It is very introspective. That's a great word. What about you, Jenna? Thoughts on this? Learn, unlearn, relearn?
I mean, I think Michelle really, really nailed it. I mean, like, especially as we get older, we get set in our ways. So like, yeah, I mean, it's difficult. So, and sometimes you don't want to admit, whether you have to or not. But no, I mean, I agree with everything Michelle said. I mean, I thought that was a great answer.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
As usual.
Thanks, guys.
So then the question is, how do we go through the exercise to actually do this? I mean, we're talking conceptually, but practically speaking, what is a way that you can make this a part of your cadence? What do you think?
Mm.
Because we could talk about self-awareness, which I think is good, but
Mm.
how do you actually put it into practice? It's almost like, you read the Bible and it says, take up your cross and follow me. And you go, okay, well, I think I understand conceptually what that means, but what does that practically look like in my daily life? How do you actually do this? What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
Could be something like a weekly check-in with yourself with these questions, right? Are there any habits that I noticed this week? And like as you do that week after week, it's going to start to come to mind throughout the week and you'll be more aware. But I think a weekly check-in could be a good thing, because then I think you'll probably start to see an overarching theme. Like, okay, this is a real gap for me. Okay, this is a real habit that I need to break.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Just a weekly check-in. One of my mentors always said, that he puts rhythms in his life. He has all these different rhythms that he has in life, and like the check-in point. He always, for him, he says, I always have these different things so that I reminds me to pray, and I just have, rhythms. And so for me, every night when the kids go down, I just carve out about 10 or 15 minutes just to unpack the day. And I have a couple of questions that I just ask myself is, what happened? How did I respond to it? What was my reaction relationally with certain people? What is it that, what I learned about myself, what I learned about God, what did I, and then what do I need to change? What do I think I need to change? And then how am I going to do it? So it's not long, it's not arduous, but it's just good for me to make it a rhythm of going, okay. And I've started to see patterns. I had a guy one time when I was dating Jill, I basically started getting close to marriage. And I remember that I was getting cold feet. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Should I do this? Should I not? Fortunately, guys tend to do that sometimes. But I remember I started just meeting with a bunch of people. And then one guy who was really wise sat down with me. He didn't know me that well, but he knew a little bit about me. And he just listened for a while. And when he got done, he looked at me and he said, it seems to me that your pattern is that you leave a trail of blood in relationships everywhere you go. It's like, whoa, ouch, that hurt. And after I had some time to reflect on it, I thought, yeah, gosh, I do. I tend to dive into this and then rip it off and move somewhere else because it's something more exciting. And it was good for me to hear that, but it certainly hurt at the time. And it helped me change, in the way that I approach things. So number 3 is growth is the great separator between those who succeed and those who don't. Being average is the lazy person's cop-out. It's lacking the guts to take a stand in life. It's living by default. Okay. So what do you think about this idea that growth, is the separator of those who succeed and those who don't? What do you think?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think like exactly what it says. But I also think that looks different for every person because
Sure.
every person has different goals in life. Like some people want to have, their own companies or they want to invent something and, some people, want to just have a comfortable life or, have kids, like I think it looks different for everyone. I think it's just, okay, so depending on what you want to do in your life, just be the best at it. You know what I mean? And grow every day. I mean, I totally agree with that statement though. I mean, yeah, I mean, growth is the difference between staying stagnant and getting better at something or just being a good person. Then I think you can apply that to everyone's personal goals in their life
Mm.
and what they want to do. And so I remember my best friend's mom, she has a lot of children, and she told her kid, she's like, honey, not that she would probably, really want this for her child, but she's like, you know what? Because her son was having a hard time figuring out what he wanted to do in life. And she's like, you know what? If you want to flip burgers, you flip burgers, but just be the best at flipping the burgers,
Yeah.
And what's funny is now he's a head chef in a restaurant. But I think it's just, I think it's just in life, like just find what you want to do personally, professionally, and just grow in it.
Yeah, I like that because sometimes we think of growth and the only thing that comes is massive person that owns a big company or does some large thing, right? And that's not necessarily true at all. It's actually just to what you said is what I always say is the starting place is to understand how you're hardwired, okay? Because everybody has a different temperament, capacity. Then you have to understand what is like, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What are the things that really my driving whys? And then once you identify that, then what am I going to do to start going in the rhythm or the lane that I was given and run really hard in that lane? Because everybody has a different lane and they have to be able to figure out the lane. That sometimes that takes some time. And then once you do, you just sprint and just grow and go in those things. So that's really good. Any thoughts on your side, Michelle?
I totally agree with Jenna. I also would hope that their definition of success would be something to the effect of how you impact or influence the people around you.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I would measure it, I think. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that growth just needs to be at the forefront in order for you to do what God intended you to do, because we're all broken and, sin along the way and all the extra factors. That's like, all right, if you can just grow in the Lord, strengthen your spirit, you can be massively impactful here in the world.
100%. Yeah, because
Go
Go ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to add to Michelle's what she said too. Like, at the end of somebody's life too, they don't talk about how successful they were or, how much money they have or what they've accomplished professionally. I personally have never heard that. Whenever I've, at the end of somebody's life, people are always talking about who they are as a person and how they've impacted people or their community. And that's usually based on how many people are, like in attendance around them when it's like their final days, because that's a testament to the type of person that they really are.
Yeah, the only thing, there are things, most things are tangible, and then there's the intangible, which is the relationship that you develop and impact. And that will go with you into eternity. There isn't anything else that you're taking with you, but that eternal thing is what matters most, is how you impact those people around you. So you have to be willing to grow and change in order to have influence and have impact. You guys have heard me say the two VIPs, right? Be a very important person, which is me-centric, or very influential person, which is other-centric, which the VIP is vision, integrity, and passion. So if I have a vision in my life, I live with integrity, and I have passion, then I'm going to be a very influential person. But if I'm lacking any one of those, I'm not. If I don't have any integrity and have vision and I have passion, no one's going to listen to me, right? If I have vision and integrity and I have no passion, no one's going to listen to me, right? So you have to have all three in order to really be impactful in your life. Number 4 is, for growth to be maximized, it must be strategic. It must be strategic. So there's a focus point of where do you focus your growth, your strengths. Okay, these are areas of your giftings that set you apart from the average. Your choices, the areas of weakness that need to change for your overall improvement. And then your faith, your relationship with God, influences your relationship with other people. So there's these focus points of growth that have to be strategic. So if I'm going to be growing, what does it mean for me to be strategic to grow?
Like how you're going to get there, what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's on purpose, with purpose, and in intention. I didn't just wake up and by the seat of my pants and go, okay, 10 years later, I just grew. I had a plan. I worked the plan, but I had some way that I was going to be intentional for me to grow. It's not just going to happen by chance. I have to have some sort of plan in place. So then we say, well, where do I focus? Say my strengths. So each one of us, Jenna, Michelle, you guys have gifts. God gave you gifts. There's lots of different giftings, but he gave you certain gifts. Your job, part of your job in being leaders, is you've got to take some time to identify what is my gifting, what is my strength, what comes natural to me. And then you say, well, how do I find that out? So how do you guys think you would find out what your natural strengths are? Any ideas?
I think a really good place to start is to ask like your friends and family, people that know you really well. And you can start to see themes through that.
Absolutely. People that know you, are around you, have proximity and duration with you, will be able to start to tell you this just seems to just come naturally for you. And it just, so asking other people that will tell you the truth and give you really good feedback is a great place to start. What else? What would be another way, Jenna?
Gosh,
Any ideas?
you're making me think today.
No?
I mean, I guess you could ask your coworkers, your boss, to go to other people. I don't know. I mean, I guess being self-aware of what maybe you think you are
Yeah.
good at, and
Yeah.
in areas you need to prove.
Yeah, having some time to reflect, have some margin carved out to ask yourself some questions too. What is it that seems to just give me a lot of joy when I do it, and it seems to come natural to me, and people give me feedback around it when I do it quite a bit. That's some good ways just to ask yourself questions. Also, there's plenty of things out there, tests that you can do that can help identify certain strengths and things that you have as well. So those are just some ways. And I think it's one of the things we want to keep doing here is to help you guys really hone in on that, because then when you do, you can accelerate and have the greatest impact. If you put me up on stage at church to sing, everybody's leaving the church, right? But if you put me as an elder leading, then I'm going to have a lot of impact, because that's just my area of strength is wisdom, influence, ideation, impact, visioneering. That's my sweet spot. But other areas, people like go, whoa, please close your mouth and don't sing. That is not a joyful noise to the Lord. So your choices, the area of weakness that needs to improve for your overall improvement. So making decisions, you guys have heard compounding choices, of just making choices every day that I want to try to grow in the area of weakness. We're working with a leader right now, and he says you need to focus on areas where the flaw is fatal. If the flaw that you have is fatal, then you should probably spend some time working on it. Otherwise, it's going to have a big impact. So that starts with me in the company. If there's things that are fatal and flawed, then I have to grow in them. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere. And then finally, your faith, your relationship with God influences your relationship with others. Why is that? Why is it that the relationship with God impacts my relationship with other people? What do you guys think?
I don't think you're able to like truly love people or care for them in the way that they need until you have the Holy Spirit doing it through you.
Yeah. So he says, love the Lord your God of your heart with all your might, mind, strength, and then what? Love your neighbor as yourself. So there's this sort of two-part thing going on here. And he says, if you say that you love me and you hate your brother, then, well, he has lots of fun things to say about that, right? But he's basically saying that you don't love me when you do that. And so he's trying to tie these two things together. And so if I'm starting here and getting everything from the vertical, then I can start to give better this way, right? And those two are connected really tight. And so it also helps me when I go up here, it helps me start to identify areas in my heart that are stony, thorny, and that God wants to shave off so that I can do that. He says some things to us sometimes that we call tough love. And he says, I discipline the ones I love. He says, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant. But later, key word, you are trained by those who are trained by it, right? So that's what we have to learn, and it's a tough one sometimes. Okay, growth is joy. This is the last one. Growth is joy. A life of growth is a life worth living. Keep making a difference. Never stop growing. Use your best gifts. Feel called. Love your team. Have a strong sense of responsibility. Love a challenge. Be rewarded financially and create a legacy. And these are all things that we can focus on. But why is growing joy? Why do you think growing is joy?
Well, because you can see the change in yourself. And I mean, that's going to make, you know, you happy just as a person to see that change in yourself. And then others will take notice of it too, to see how you're changing and you're going to be impacting other people's lives, which brings joy to everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, as I grow and can pour out and offer my life as an offering, there is a tremendous amount of joy to see that your life had purpose and meaning, not for your own self-centric, fleshly way, but that your life had massive impact so that other people could flourish, grow, change. We were part of this thing called First Five. It's the first 5 years of marriage. We went into a class that we had 3 couples that poured into us for the first 5 years. Every week we'd go in there. And during the summertime, we were sitting around and I said, do you guys have any idea of how we all met and actually became friends? And we were thinking about it. And I said, it's first 5. I said, think about all the things that have happened from that one class that we chose to be a part of once a week for 5 years. And so what we chose to do was to get all the couples at that season in life and put a book together with a picture of us when we were first married and then now with our kids, with a letter that we took back into them last weekend. And we all walked in the room while they were teaching and surprised them with this book and presented it to them. There was lots of tears flowing around the room, but it was a wonderful time for us, a lot of joy just to see how much they've impacted our life. But for them, it was just joyful to think, oh my gosh, we really had this impact on these people's lives, because they chose to do that. So there's a tremendous amount of joy for them because of their choices that they made to grow. Because I know, and I said this when I was presenting, I said, I guarantee there were weeks and weeks and weeks where you thought, why are we doing this? Well, I mean, this is hard. I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I'd rather do something else. But they chose to press past that and just go into growth mode. So I think all these things make a ton of sense for us to be able to grow. And I think for us as a firm, that's really important. As it says, it's not what you are going to do, but what you are going to do right now that counts. We're making a lot of choices as a firm right now. And as you guys heard me talk about at the Christmas thing, which is that we want to find a focal point of how much can we give this year? How much can we press out and have impact on people? We're going to be hiring a bunch of people, and we just have to stay bound together as a culture, as this integrity family. We have to keep saying, how do I grow? Because individually binds up into something massive collectively, where we can have such an impact if each one of us says, I'm just going to keep growing so that I can impact, my person that's next to me and the person over here and all these people that I work with. I want to help them grow. And man, if you do that, we're going to stand out like a sore thumb to the rest of the world. So I'm super excited for us. And I just know that we're going to do something really, really cool together. So great job.